Alright, so Apple's September 14th California streaming event has just happened. I'm still unclear as to what exactly California streaming meant, but we've got 5 new products to cover. The iPhone 13, iPhone 13 Pro, Apple Watch Series 7, iPad 9th generation, and the iPad mini 6. So let's get into it. Let's start with the iPhone 13. So a couple design differences that you may have noticed. On the back, the cameras are now diagonal from each other rather than being vertically stacked. This is to accommodate for the larger size of the new sensors that Apple has implemented. The ultra-wide is supposedly sharper, and the wide camera is said to capture 47% more light. I think that's what they said about the iPhone 12 Pro Max over the 12 Pro last year. So I guess they're just bringing the iPhone 12 Pro Max's camera system to all the iPhones this year. And the cameras also now have sensor shift stabilization, also an iPhone 12 Pro Max feature from last year. The iPhone 13s also have this new feature, cinematic mode, that Apple introduced. Basically portrait mode for video. They showcase this cool focus shifting feature that they do in movies, but probably the best part about it is that you can edit it in post right on the iPhone. Night mode is also standard across all cameras, and all these features that came to the rear cameras are now also on the front one. Apple also introduced something called photographic styles, which I guess is basically filters without filtering the entire photo. So it really it's kind of like smart filters if you think about it. And they have, I think, 5 styles for it. Moving on to the front, there's also a design difference in the top. The notch is finally a tiny bit smaller. It's noticeable, but I'm not sure if that many people are going to care about it. The iPhone 13 also has the new A15 Bionic chip. It's said to have 50% faster CPU performance than the competition and 30% faster GPU performance than the competition, whoever the competition is. The display is also now 30-ish% brighter. It's got 800 nits peak brightness for regular use and then 1200 nits for HDR content. One of the most notable upgrades that we got this year is battery life. So they're claiming 1.5 more hours of battery life on the iPhone 13 mini and 2.5 more on the 13. They did say that they have bigger batteries, so that should translate well into real life. We also got double the base storage for the same price. These iPhones now start at 128 gigabytes of storage, which is plenty for a lot of people. We also got a couple new finishes for this iPhone, a new blue and a new pink, and also a starlight and a midnight finish. I think this is what that California streaming banner was hinting to, that night image. And we also got a bunch of minor upgrades like 5G and maybe a bit faster Face ID and all the regular stuff that you do get with an iPhone. So now let's move on to the iPhone 13 Pro, and we have got some great upgrades here. So first off, it did bring a lot of the features from the iPhone 13. Obviously all those camera upgrades, the cinematic mode, the photography styles, the new larger sensors, which is also why the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro do not share compatible cases anymore. But the iPhone 13 Pro cameras also have a new feature called macro mode, which doesn't have a dedicated lens for it, but instead uses the ultra-wide lens. I think this is what the S21 Ultra does, if I'm not wrong. Also, I think the telephoto camera is now a 77mm camera rather than 65 and 60 from the iPhone 12 Pro Max and 12 Pro from last year respectively, which means now it has a 3x zoom rather than a 2 or a 2.5x zoom. Also, the iPhone 13 Pro has got some display upgrades. The display now peaks out at 1000 nits of brightness for regular content and still 1200 nits for HDR content. But more interestingly, we got ProMotion. After, I think, 2 years of rumors, I believe there will be an option to turn this off in the settings. However, it is a variable refresh rate between 10 and 120 Hertz. So just like the iPad Pros. And Apple even has a fold-out page or whatever you call it that you can click on in the iPhone 13 Pro page, where they explain why this won't necessarily impact your battery life. And on the topic of battery life, the iPhone 13 Pro series has also received larger batteries. Apple's saying 1.5 more hours of battery life on the iPhone 13 Pro and 2.5 hours more on the 13 Pro Max. These new iPhones also have the A15 chip and come in a couple new finishes. So we still have silver, gold, and graphite, but now Pacific Blue has been replaced with Sierra Blue. And I think I dig this more than Pacific Blue. That one was kind of dark. This one's kind of nice. It's a bit of a paler, a sky blue, and I really like it. At least it's not midnight green. The iPhone 13 Pros also now allow you to shoot in ProRes. We've got the Apple Watch Series 7. It still has the same footprint as its predecessor, except the bezels are just a bit thinner. I think they said 40%, but you wouldn't really think that. But yeah, the screen is larger thanks to the narrower bezels. It's also a bit more durable and has an IP6X dust rating. And it's also got a couple updates in regards to cycling and home keys and car keys and stuff like that. And they also finally added the QWERTY keyboard. But really aside from that, there's not much from the Apple Watch Series 7. It's going to be coming this fall for I think about $400 US. But the Series 3 and the SE are still being sold on Apple's website. Last but not least, we've also got the new iPads, namely the iPad 9th generation and the iPad mini 6. So my video on the iPad 9th generation, I pretty much got everything wrong, but it was a pleasant surprise. We didn't get a design update, but we did get the new A13 chip. We also got an updated 12 megapixel front-facing ultra-wide camera with center stage, and the display is now a P3 display supporting True Tone. It's also got 64 gigs of base storage, but still is starting at $330. However, the iPad mini 6 is a bit more exciting. It's basically just a smaller version of the iPad Air 4. It's now got an 8.3-inch all-screen display, however with the pretty thick bezels of the iPad Air 4. It also supports Apple Pencil Gen 2 and a bunch of other things, the landscape stereo speakers, Touch ID on the power button, but it does some stuff better. It now has 5G for whatever reason. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to put it on an iPad mini, but it's there if you want it. Also, the rear camera is now 12 megapixels, but they've got a flash on the back. Wow, I guess. This is also hinting a lot as to what the iPad Air 5 could look like, so I'm excited for that as well. And also, the front-facing camera is now also a 12 megapixel ultra-wide center stage supporting camera like on the iPad Pro. Oh, and this new iPad mini does also have that A15 Bionic chip. But the one huge downside, much like the iPad Air 4, it now starts at $100 more at $500 for 64 gigs of storage. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I actually want to go more in depth about these iPads in another video that I want to release hopefully in this next week, because the iPad 9th gen, well, that really surprised me. Also, thanks for that video. That hit 1K in just over a day. That did crazy. But yeah, I was mostly wrong in that. Also, this new iPad mini 6 is definitely worth talking about, so I want to see what we've got there as well. Now is probably a good time to subscribe to the channel. I've got that video coming out next week, and I want to talk a bit about that Microsoft event in just under 10 days. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. And that's pretty much it for me.